They say solitude is a mirror, one that reflects not only your face, but the architecture of your thoughts. For the reflective bachelor, especially the one who does not rush into relationships for the sake of companionship, solitude becomes a silent teacher. In that silence, far from the noise of trends, opinions, and fleeting infatuations, 10 deep truths about masculinity and femininity begin to emerge, not from books or advice, but from quiet observation, failed connections, and the inner unraveling of false ideals. The first concept he begins to understand is that masculinity is not a costume. It is not built on dominance, control, or rugged silence. It is instead a quiet responsibility, a gravitational pull toward stability. True masculinity does not shout, it anchors. A man learns this when he is alone long enough to confront his own chaos and recognize that leadership starts with inner order, not outer assertion. He realizes that the strong, silent type only works when the silence is filled with thought, not emptiness. He sees that being a man isn't about appearing powerful to women, it's about being powerful enough not to need approval. This realization deepens when he confronts the second truth: femininity is not weakness wrapped in softness. It is a different kind of strength, one often dismissed or misunderstood. Femininity holds emotional intelligence like a sharp blade hidden in silk. The bachelor, who has spent time observing the women around him, mothers, sisters, colleagues, begins to see how easily society undervalues empathy, nurturing, and emotional labor. He learns to distinguish between performative femininity, which often conforms to the expectations of beauty and obedience, and authentic femininity, which flows with intuitive power and creative resilience. He begins to admire, not desire, the kind of woman who holds her ground without losing her grace. The third revelation is more unsettling. He realizes that much of what society taught him about relationships was transactional. Love was often portrayed as something to be earned, proved, or exchanged. But in solitude, stripped of the performance, he sees that real connection cannot be built on the currency of validation. He remembers relationships where he tried to win affection, or where women tried to earn love through self-sacrifice. He begins to understand that when either masculinity or femininity is used as leverage rather than expression, the bond rots from the inside. Real intimacy, he sees, is not an achievement, it's an unveiling. Through long walks, late-night journaling, and introspective reflection, he stumbles upon the fourth truth, that not every feminine woman desires a traditionally masculine man, and not every masculine man feels drawn to conventionally feminine women. What matters more is polarity, not predictability. He starts noticing couples who thrive not because they play roles correctly, but because they complement each other's energy like fire and oxygen. Some women radiate intensity and seek grounding. Others offer deep calm and seek vision. The bachelor begins to ask not what should a woman be, but what does my soul feel safe and alive beside? That shifting question reshapes everything. The fifth concept creeps in when he stops romanticizing pain. He recalls moments when he confused emotional chaos with passion, when a woman's unpredictability felt exciting, when being needed felt like being loved. He learns the brutal difference between drama and depth. The feminine mystique, he realizes, is not found in turmoil, but in the serenity of self-knowing. Just as true masculinity is not about stoicism, true femininity is not about volatility. He begins to appreciate peace in a woman the same way he cherishes peace within himself. He starts unlearning the cultural addiction to intensity and begins to crave stability with spark. By now, he starts seeing the sixth revelation take shape. Gender roles are real, but they are not prison cells. They are blueprints, not rules. He recognizes that while biology may influence tendencies like a man's inclination toward protection or a woman's attunement to connection, these tendencies are not commands. They are invitations. A man may lead, but it doesn't mean a woman cannot guide. A woman may nurture, but it doesn't mean a man cannot hold space. He sees that mature masculinity and femininity do not compete, they collaborate. The dance is in knowing when to lead and when to yield. As he reflects on his past relationships and the stories of others, the seventh truth hits hardest: wounded masculinity and wounded femininity create toxic cycles. The over-controlling man is often scared. The overly submissive woman is often abandoned. The manipulative partner, regardless of gender, is usually just terrified of being seen. He realizes that until both energies are healed individually, their meeting point will always be a battlefield. The bachelor begins to heal his own wounds not for a future partner, but because the world doesn't need another man confusing trauma for masculinity. He now pays closer attention to how people speak, how they carry themselves, and how they treat others when there's nothing to gain. The eighth insight unfolds gently. Real masculinity honors, it doesn't consume. Real femininity trusts, it doesn't perform. He learns to look past surface-level attraction and into character. He notices whether a woman's confidence stems from inner clarity or outer attention. He notices whether his own decisions stem from fear of being alone or genuine longing. This awareness saves him from choosing out of desperation. It teaches him that both feminine and masculine strength are revealed in stillness. At this point in his inner journey, the ninth concept emerges like a lighthouse through fog. Polarity thrives on admiration, not equality, in everything. He sees that relationships are not democratic republics. They are sacred dances. Not everything must be 50-50. Sometimes one partner holds the burden while the other rests. Sometimes the feminine leads with vision, and the masculine follows with muscle. He learns to value balance, but not insameness. He stops seeking a woman who is just like him and starts seeking someone whose strengths awaken his, whose presence challenges but doesn't compete with him. The deeper he understands himself, the clearer he sees what he needs, not who he wants to fix. Finally, in the quietest moments of his solitude, the 10th and most transformative realization dawns. True masculinity and femininity are not costumes to attract each other, they are the unfolding of wholeness within. The man who deeply understands his masculine energy does not fear feminine power. He welcomes it. The woman who embodies her femininity does not resent masculine presence. She feels secure in its gravity. The bachelor sees that his future partner is not a trophy, nor is he her savior. They are two energies meeting in shared wholeness, not to have seeking to fill each other's voids. This insight humbles him. He begins to prepare not to impress a woman, but to become the kind of man who is already enough before she arrives. He builds not only his career, but his emotional vocabulary. He learns to listen without fixing, to hold space without suffocating. He lets go of the checklist of superficial traits and starts watching for values, integrity, presence, and the ability to sit in silence without fear. He meets women differently now. He notices how they respond to pressure, how they navigate uncertainty, how they speak of others. He no longer flinches when someone doesn't choose him because he knows that every misalignment is a mercy. He welcomes solitude, not as an exile, but as a sanctuary. The bachelor realizes that knowing himself is not just preparation for love, is protection from the wrong kind. In a world that rushes to pair, he walks slower. Not because he is afraid to love, but because he has learned that love is not a shelter you run to. It is a fire you both must tend. And until he meets the woman who knows how to build with grace, laugh without walls, and hold with depth, he continues building himself not as a performance, but as a promise. Because real masculinity is not found in conquering women, it is found in conquering the parts of himself that once needed to. And real femininity is not about pleasing a man, it is about being so rooted in truth that no man can shake her unless she wants to dance. And so, the reflective bachelor waits not for perfection, but for polarity. Not for the one who checks all boxes, but for the one who sees the same storm coming and offers a matching kind of calm. In that waiting, he is not lonely, he is becoming.